Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I am going to do a quick watercolor demo for you while it is quiet for a few minutes at my house, I'm hoping. I started off by wetting my watercolor paper, and I am going to use a water brush and some watercolors. I'm going to start with some kind of like a violet here on the in the sky. We're going to do a beachy scene. We're going to put a little bit of a horizon line there too. I'm using some very inexpensive watercolors from Royal and Langnickel. They come in this little tray like this. They're available in several different sets. These little pan watercolors, but of course you can use whatever you want. This is some Prussian Blue here. I want to thin that down a little bit, so I'm just going to squeeze some water out of my brush. I'm also going to grab a little of this kind of pinky mauve color and lighten it up on my palette. You could have just a plain ceramic dish handy. That would work really well. You can take the pans out and put them in your dish if you want to. They do like to dance around a little bit if you do that, so I just kept mine right here. Now I'm going to clean my brush by squeezing it out on a rag. Get out the extra water. These are by Royal and Langnickel as well, these brushes. They are a little easier to squeeze than some of the other brands, so you might find that easy. Especially if you have any issues with strength. That's a little too bright. I gotta water that way down. I'm working on a handmade watercolor paper. I really like this paper because it has a really pretty texture to it. I'm grabbing a lot of the colors here. I find that often if you got the colors, if this is just a 12 color set here, it's often you get a much vivid color if you don't mix on some of these student grade colors because they often contain mixes. So if you can start off without mixing, it usually works a little bit better. Now I want to put some of this yellow in the sky for some like reflected clouds. And I also want to lift off a really bright sun. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that on this paper because this paper doesn't have a lot of sizing. I don't think it's going to let me. But I can always go back. Oh, you know what? It might actually. I can always go back in with some white if I need to. But let me just try to lift it off as best I can now. Let me just try with a little bit of water. See if I can. Oh yeah, I can lift a little bit back more with the water. Just make sure you're using a dry area of your rag. There, that worked pretty good. I'm going to go around, add a little bit more color. A little bit of yellow near the edges. Really give it that sunset feeling. Oops. I was just trying to pick up some of the color, ended up spreading it. There we go. I think that'll be alright. Let me try lifting a little bit. Oh, I think I'm peeling the paper though. Yep, I'm definitely peeling the paper. Most papers I think would be fine with that, but this handmade paper just does not have enough sizing. But we got some white paint, we can touch that up later. I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, so now I'm going to go in with that red. A little bit of the mauve color, and I am going to put a horizon line on there. I'm going to actually make use of the lines on my mat here and see if I can get a nice horizon line just by kind of eyeballing it. I think that will work alright. Give me enough of a guide. I can also line it up this way and just kind of give myself a little bit of a visual guide that way. Can always make things a little sharper later, but really I don't want that sharp of a line on this painting. Put my tray of colors right back. there and line that up with one of the edges. Okay, I'm going to grab some of the Prussian Blue, and I don't want it too wet on my brush, so I'm not, I got a little glob on there I want to remove, but I'm not adding water to it. And I am just going to draw that horizon line again. Just kind of, you can make a mark on your paper if you want to. I'm just trying to use my my grid as a guide. I'm going to grab some of the violet there. Actually, I'll wipe off my brush a little bit first. Get a little of that purple. I'm accounting for the fact that it is going to dry a little bit lighter, so I want to keep that in mind. Some of that mauve and red and crimson, the mauve color and the crimson color. I'm going to put some watery Prussian Blue in here. And I'm also going to just kind of indicate where my sand is going to be. So I'm only going to bring that down a little ways. I'm going to try to gently lift up some of that Prussian Blue that's a little bit dark up here. I can actually scooch my horizon line up a little bit as I do that. And I'm going to blot a little bit on the horizon line because I find it a little bit dark. The paper is quite forgiving. I'm going to add a little bit more of that reddish color in here. Oops, that was a little too watery. I got to spread it out now, otherwise I'm going to have blooms. I want just a little spark of yellow in there for the sunset. Just a little bit. Alright, I want to make the sand color, and I think because I know I'm going to use some white in that sun, I'm going to use some white in the sand color to make the base of it. So I'm just taking the white from that pan there. I'll put it up in this pan because that's a pretty clean area for mixing. I need to make quite a bit of it, so I'm going to bring a lot of that over. If I'm going to take the pans out and use them in a palette, a lot of times I like to try to get them right out of the plastic pans in there, so I just have kind of that brick of paint, and then I just plop it in there when I'm back in the half pans when I'm done. Now while I have this really thick white paint, I'm just going to go ahead and add the sun in there. And I can add a few little clouds while I'm at it. Okay, I'm going to take some burnt umber and add that right into that sand color and add some water. There, we got plenty in there now. Alright, I'm going to go in. That's actually even darker than I need it. So I can just spread it with some water. I can bring it right up to the shore and it just kind of disappears together. They just kind of merge a little bit. Alright, so now I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt umber on its own, and I'm going to go in and throw in a few kind of divots, sand divots, for where we'll have our grasses kind of sprouting out from. Oh, some beach grass. And I'm going to start mixing up my beach grass color. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use a premix color because I can mix it from what I've already used. That's a much better idea. So let me clean that out. Let's use our yellow. Get quite a bit of that yellow over there. And we'll add in, so let's do a little bit more yellow so we don't have to stop and mix. I'll take a little bit of the Prussian Blue. Doesn't take much. There, we'll get a nice color. Now I think I'll be applying it with another brush because I'll want that smaller brush. It's not going to hold a lot of water. However, I think I do want to mix up a little bit more color. Because I'm looking at that, that's not a heck of a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and just mix more with this bigger brush because bigger brushes are a little bit more resilient for mixing. And I don't have to stop and remix while I'm painting. And sometimes I'll have an area that's got a little bit more blue in it on one side. That way I can dip into that if I need to. Okay, so now I'm going to go with a smaller brush. I'm going to see what I get if I paint on the wet, and I'm going to paint these things towards the back because it's okay if those for the back ones are a little bit fuzzier. And they could actually be a little bit bluer. I am going to need to mix more, I can already tell. These would be further down the beach and behind. And the grasses we'll paint last will be our bigger, brighter ones. Alright, so let's mix up a little bit more. Let's, I'm just going to go right ahead and grab some more of this yellow. I grab a smidgen of that red just to tone it down a little bit, make it a little more natural looking. I think that's a good color. And I can clean the sediment off the top of these pans when I'm done, so there's no worries about that. Alright, I'm going to grab my heat tool and dry that just for a few seconds so that I won't have bleeding edges where I don't want them. So whenever you want your lines to be nice and crisp, you want to have dry paper. If you want your edges to blend, you want to have wet paper. And this will just take me probably about a minute. Since this paper doesn't have a lot of sizing in it, it's very absorbent, which means it's almost like it's like you're painting on a paper towel and it just kind of sucks in lots of water and lots of paint. That's why it's a little bit trickier to lift up. Like I'll probably do another coat of white on the sun because as you can see it's getting kind of, well, I don't know, I might or might not. It might not really feel like it needs it once I dry this, but you know, just so you know, this is going to be more absorbent than like your typical watercolor paper because it doesn't have as much sizing in it. I think that's pretty dry. Yep, feels alright. And I just need enough water in this mix so that my paint will flow. And I am going to put some grasses on. Use your brush straight up and down. And do some right off the bottom edge. I think I'll add a little burnt umber into that. Give me some more earthy looking grasses. Greens can be tricky. Sometimes they look so unnatural. A lot of little beaches with grass like this in Maine. All right. Now I am going to, and imagine just sitting out there in the sunset and painting this scene. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm going to take a clean water brush, just grab some more white. Really make sure I'm getting that nice white, kind of thick white paste there. And add a little bit in there. And add a little bit into the water. Grab a little bit of yellow. Add a little bit into the clouds. I don't know if you can hear the serenading upstairs. My daughter's singing. All right, I think that looks pretty nice. I think just for a little touch of whimsy, we can put a few birds. I'm gonna go back to that small water brush. I'm gonna mix up a nice dark color. I'm gonna use the Prussian Blue and the crimson. Make a nice inky dark color. Very little water, just enough water to make it flow off the brush. And like I can see that I've got this like little, a lot of times with the handmade paper you'll see little specks. And that's a great, if you see a speck you don't like, that's a great place to put a bird. I don't want to put one there because it's kind of close to the middle of the paper. Seagulls. There's some seagulls looking for French fries on the beach. There you have it. This was really fun, easy, a great way to warm up for a painting day. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And until next time, happy crafting.